Hey, welcome to Greatest Golfer. My name is Todd Franco, guru of Greatest Golfer. Thrilled to be here tonight. Thrilled to be here with one of the most, I'd say, acclaimed golfers in Greatest Golfer history and one of the most notorious. And I guess, Jeff Wilkins, welcome. And let's just cut right to the chase. Why the grudge? I've had 4,000 golfers come through Greatest Golfer, and clearly you get disqualified once, and I feel all this weight on me that just says you don't want to talk to me ever again. You harass me in the stores. Do you have something you need to get off your chest?
I do not, other than you have false information, sir. I was disqualified. That is true. I did play like 3 years after that. You keep saying I quit and took my ball and went home. I did play after I got DQ'd.
Well, I'm sorry. When you get a Super Bowl guy who gets disqualified, I guess you do tend to make up your own memories. So that's the story that I like to get. But that said, it was an awful memory because I'm a little sensitive to, like, I want everyone in. And I tell you, that disqualification out at Youngstown Country Club just tore at me. So I got to.
Do you know the story?
The tees and the scorecards did not match up, and it was easy to get confused.
Who did the scorecards? Would that be you? Who's responsible for those?
You know what? Let's not name names. We learn from it. How's that sound? Learn from it. But I gotta tell you, it was like a tsunami of knowledge that came as people were making the turn. They're like, "Hey, this group," and I know that you're out there, and you're nothing special, but you did play, the Super Bowl. So I gotta think a little bit. And all of a sudden, the group in front of you is like, "Yeah, it's these guys behind us," and I look and I say, "Oh my God, it's Wilkins on the tee box."
Here's what happened. We teed off from the right tee on the first hole.
Yeah.
And then the group in front of us, which had my buddy Dick Marlowe in it, who's a famous golfer, they already teed off the second hole. Well, you put two tees out there, and the card had a tee on it. Well, the card had the tee for the lower handicap group that were playing one tee up.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything, so we ended up teeing off from that tee. We get to the third hole, and I look over, and I see Marlowe teeing off from the back tees.
Gotcha.
On the next hole, and my heart dropped because I'm like, oh no, I think we teed off from the up tees on the second hole. And so I called him over. I'm like, hey, you guys playing the back tees or the one-ups? And he said the back tees. I said, the card says the one-ups. And he's like, well, they only had room for one of the yardages, and they put those on there. So immediately I knew we were in trouble. Luckily, we weren't playing good, so we wouldn't have made the cut anyway.
Really?
But and then we got to ninth hole, and I see Scott and you up there laughing, and I gave it. What's that?
It was a nervous laugh, just so you know.
I gave it the thumbs up or thumbs down, and you both went thumbs down. So I knew right there we were DQ'd for playing the wrong tee. And like anything else, what happens the next day in the Vindicator? Whose name was mentioned? Mine.
Your other
ex-football player DQ. But it was funny. But I did end up playing a couple more years after that. It's just the last year or two I didn't play.
All right, so there's no grudge.
No grudge.
You're not saying bad things completely about me, only partially about me.
Not about the greatest golfer. No, definitely say bad things about you, but not about the greatest golfer.
Hey, that's good. I mean, protect greatest golfer. Screw me. That's okay. But I will admit, now that I know there's no grudge, I will admit that you three were the greatest gentlemen dealing with the DQ. Well, I love that you play Greatest Golfer. I love that you're a great citizen here in the Valley. I love seeing stories about you helping out the next generation of kickers. And I guess talk to me about, just sum up life after football.
Playing a lot of golf, but the main things have 3 kids and a beautiful wife, and, being able to spend a lot of quality time with them, being involved in their sports and in their lives. So kind of the first few years afterwards, I'm like, all right, I'm going to, make sure I do that as much as I can, and kind of help out coaching some of their teams, run some kick camps. My wife started an apparel business that we run out of the house here. So she's been doing a fantastic job with that. I help her out a little bit, do the paperwork and that kind of thing. So it's enough to keep us busy, but still allows us, a lot of free time to spend with the family and travel a lot. My girls have played volleyball, so we're traveling all over.
Teach me about kicking the ball. Why is it so hard to kick a damn field goal? I've tried for 54 years, and it seems to wobble like a keg down the field.
See, what's funny is I would say kicking's easy. Golf's hard. And there's just a couple technique things where your foot has to be in relationship to the ball. And once you get that down, it seems to click. But yeah, it is funny. Even playing in the pros, I would have all the linemen come out before practice and want to try kick field goals.
Yeah.
And just, it's funny watching them and watch how the ball goes. But I would say, I learned at a young age playing soccer and then made the transition to kicking a football, and it just went from there. But I wish somebody could tell me how to chip a golf ball. That's a lot of people would say that's easy. I struggle doing that. So it's just,
basically when you have golf struggles, you go buy a new golf club. Is it true that if not for you and your purchases, golf headquarters will be out of business? Is that how much golf equipment you buy?
Unfortunately, it probably would put a big dent into their profit, but those guys have been great.
I showed up at golf headquarters one day and it happened to bump into you and Dennis Miller. But in telling someone the story about going to golf headquarters, they just shrugged their shoulders and said, "Oh, was Wilkins there?"
Well, that transition for retirement, a lot of guys go to McDonald's and meet for breakfast, and you see them sitting around there. I go to golf headquarters, do a little chipping, do a little putting, buy a few clubs.
I saw you one morning of greatest going to the driving range with 6 drivers in your hand. Just so you know, in 12 years of greatest, I've not seen one other person do that. I'm not going to ask why, because it's maddening that you would do that. But I'm just curious, would you go through 6 different shoes on a football field to get the right kick?
No. Once I had a kicking shoe I'd have a backup just in case, but for the most part, I'd wear that shoe out. Not like golf, that's for sure.
So one bad kick wouldn't make you switch shoes, but one bad drive will make you switch drivers.
Absolutely.
That is just a little bit crazy.
I love testing equipment. I'm an equipment junkie, and I know it's not great for my game because I don't get used to anything, but I literally love testing all the new stuff.
Did you ever think of just getting on the payroll at golf headquarters because you're there so much?
I've been trying for 3 years. Joe won't do it. My buddy Deuce is over there. I keep trying to clock in every time I go there. I spend more time there than some of the employees.
Maybe it's because you're a field goal kicker instead of a middle linebacker. Do you think field goal kickers get a bad rap for being a little eccentric and weird and quirky, or is it all well-deserved?
No, yeah, we definitely get a bad rap.
It's not
back in the day, I could see why, but if you look at some of these guys now, I'm 6'2", 220, and there's guys that tower over me that are kickers and punters now. I always find it funny when a buddy of mine or somebody would say, "We'll be making fun of a kicker." Dude, you're 5'8", 160, and you're making fun of me. The guys now are all athletes.
All right, let's. I'm gonna try and share a screen. I want to. Speaking of kickers and being badasses, talk me through this. Let me adjust the volume so we can talk over it. But this is. Right. I got to give you credit. Talk about 6'2", 220. I'm impressed here. So tell me about this. So where are we at? Carolina versus St. Louis, fourth quarter. Playoff.
Playoff game. Probably my favorite play in my whole career, to be honest with you.
Is it really?
Yes.
Okay, so part of me wants 2 questions right away.
All right.
First of all, during the huddle, the team trainer with the water bottle wasn't paying attention to you. Does that happen a lot? You had to tap his shoulder and say, "Hey, kicker needs water." Does that happen a lot that you got to get attention on the sidelines?
Yeah, but at this point, I think he knew I had to kick this, and you know how it is too. A lot of times when it's a game-winning field goal, they leave you alone. So he knew what was coming, so he was probably just leaving me alone.
You have full shoulder pads and like a real face mask, not just like the Garo Yepremian stuff. Did you have to steal that from a linebacker?
Well, my goal from day one is I really never wanted to be a kicker.
Let's get to the punchline. You are going to recover this onside kick in a something that's bigger than the Immaculate Reception in Pittsburgh. Did you have any anticipation this was going to come to you?
No, this was not designed at all. We've done this kick a lot. In fact, this kick is now outlawed.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
No, is it really? Wow. They
Uh,
they were talking about the English that you put on the ball, so you must have done it.
yeah, Morton Anderson and a couple other guys started this, and then I picked it up, and it became a weapon for us where you hit the ball straight into the ground and try to get a high hop. And it was not supposed to come to me. It's supposed to come to one of those guys trailing behind the front line up there.
So everyone's charged. It was charged. It hits the ground, comes right back to you. Look at that.
Yeah, and it was one of those where, just instinct kicked in. The ball, I saw it bounce towards me, and I'm like, oh, boy, and just went and grabbed it.
Okay.
And to be honest, as soon as I got it and I hit the ground, you've heard about all the things that happen on the ground in a scrum like that.
Yeah.
So I was just holding onto the ball for dear life and hoping to get up soon. But
so when you say, oh, boy, there wasn't a moment of you that said, oh, boy, this is going to be bad?
no, I mean, like I said, I love trying to get in there as much as I can. Now, again, one of those was instinct. You just jumped. I didn't realize it did until afterwards. I'm like, whew, got lucky. It bounced to me and was able to hold on to it down in the pile.
Look at those shoulder pads, man. You're like a free safety there. That's not field goal gear. I'm pretty proud of you. I'm pretty proud.
Thank you. I try to tell the kids I'm working with nowadays, try to be involved as much as you can with the rest of your team. So, they're out there busting their butt for 58 minutes during the game. You're going to probably be on the field less than 2 minutes. So during practice, stay out there, do the extra things. So when you make a kick, they're going to support you. But then when things go wrong, they're going to be like, hey, this guy's been out training with us. He's been working hard. We got his back.
Because kickers play so little in a game, don't you think you should have just like half a salary instead of a full salary? Or shouldn't you like help clean up equipment afterward? Like contribute something because you're only out there like 5 plays.
See, here we go. See, I was going to dig up some dirt on you, but then I realized you're the one who's editing this and got full control. So I chose not to.
Why do we need 2 kickers? Save on the money.
We don't have 2 kickers. Where's your knowledge of the game?
Cut the ticket prices down by $5 and have the punter and the kicker do the same thing.
I know when somebody's not a true football fan when they say, do you have 2 kickers or were you the starting kicker? Because there are not 2 kickers. There's a punter and there's a kicker, completely different positions.
How did you get there? You said quarterback, you said wide receiver. How'd you end up, let's get to your YSU years. How'd you end up saying, you know what, I'm going to be a kicker and here's my path? And
well, I knew once I got through high school, I was playing quarterback and I was defensive player, but I knew my chance in college was going to be a kicking. And basically came down to Bowling Green and YSU. And once Coach Tressel sat down, it was a no-brainer. I mean, I've always said, and I tell anybody I can now, surround yourself with the right people if you want to be successful. And within 5 minutes of meeting him versus meeting whoever the Bowling Green coach was at the time, I knew YSU is where I needed to be.
So you don't get drafted out of college, not necessarily a stunning situation for kickers. Not a lot of kickers drafted.
Yeah, now back in the day, there was no social media. There was none of that. So we were sending VHS tapes, literally resumes, that kind of thing, just trying to get a workout. Got a few workouts and had the opportunity to sign with Dallas or Cleveland. I chose to go to Dallas, who had a wide open position. They were bringing in 4 guys. But unfortunately, I wasn't ready at that point. And I got cut and came back to YSU and was back in school and kept working out. And then at that point, I got an opportunity with the Philadelphia Eagles just doing the kickoffs. And I knew I had to get better at my field goals. I was not ready at that point. And I didn't know exactly how good I needed to be until I got to Philadelphia.
How do those goalposts look in a 30-yard kick at Stambaugh versus a 30-yard kick at Veterans Stadium?
Yeah, when you get a huge stadium with the crowd right behind you, it actually helps. It brings everything closer to you versus when you're playing like I think it was the LA Coliseum where there was no stands behind it.
Yes.
And you're out for a 40-yarder. The depth perception, I mean, it looks a lot different.
All right. So besides the controversy you caused at Greatest Golfer with your deciding on your own to play from the wrong tee boxes to get an advantage, the other's controversy in your sporting career I've been informed about is that you opted to leave the San Francisco 49ers. Not sure if you're going to win a Super Bowl with the 49ers, but talk about your path and that controversial move. How do you go from the Eagles to the 49ers to then the greatest show on turf?
All right, so the Eagles, I'm going there to do the kickoffs for the last 6 games for their kicker. The next year, they bring in Gary Anderson, who's a phenomenal kicker, had a great career. As soon as they signed him, I knew I was cut. I was the young buck. I'd still, at this point, never kicked an extra point or a field goal in a game, just did some kickoffs. He was phenomenal, so I just sat and I tried to learn as much as I can from him. They cut me, and of course, I'm down in the dumps. I come home, and one of the first calls was from Gary Anderson, who said, hey, listen, you have the ability. You can do this. One of those, again, when you're just around the right kind of people, he was a great guy. He gave me that confidence to go ahead and keep pushing forward and trying to make it. End up working out for the 49ers. I go into San Francisco, played there for a year and a half, and my contract was up. And they wanted to sign me back, and then the Rams came calling. Kicking in Dome versus kicking in Candlestick. I don't know if you know about Candlestick. Candlestick's a hard place to kick.
It's a wind tunnel.
Real windy, below sea level, so the turf's always wet. And it was more of a longevity move at that point, because San Fran was good, and the Rams at that point were horrible. It just so happened 3 years later, we win the Super Bowl.
You've got like 4 steps or so, 5 steps until you kick an extra point. Is the grass versus the turf that much of an impact? Because I'm from Buffalo, and there's 4 words to affiliate with Buffalo in football, and that's Scott Norwood, wide right. And in knowing some of Scott's stats, and I'm a huge Scott fan, is that he had a better percentage kicking off turf than off grass. And that was just kind of an amazing stat. And there's that much of a difference between grass, turf, below sea level, everything else?
Yeah, the big difference is, on turf, you're going to have footing. Rarely do you slip on turf. On grass, you just never know.
So your plant foot approach is a little different then, because you might slip?
Yes, you got to make sure you have the right spikes. You got to, depending on if the turf's wet or not, or the grass is wet or not, where on turf, 99% of the time you're going to have good footing so you can attack it more. And the whole Scott Norwood thing, if you look, it's just simple little things. The strings on that ball were facing to the right. And this is one of the things as a kicker, when the strings are facing to the right, the ball's going to fade to the right.
Gotcha.
That's how important the holder is, the snapper and the holder. They're just as important as the kicker. And they were just slightly to the right, so it didn't allow that ball to draw back in. Every year at this time is when it comes up. Yeah. Super Bowl week, Scott Norwood. And nobody knows, he went on and played the next year and had a really good year. He went 4-4 in the playoffs and kicked in the next Super Bowl. But all you know him for is the missed kick.
It's wide right.
Yeah. To this day, I played in 2 Super Bowls. I'm not going to lie. All week long, I sat there and said, please don't let me pull a Scott Norwood.
That's just crazy. And that's the stage of the NFL, but the stage you guys are on, that you can do a lot of great things, but man, it's just amazing how you can get tagged with, one incident that happens at the wrong moment in history.
Yeah.
I was there the day after the Bills got back, and the crowd was cheering for Norwood to come on out. He was buried in the back of the stage. Didn't want to show his face, and when he did finally get to the front of the stage, because the crowd was cheering, he was just a ball of tears.
And I watched that interview. He got up there in front of that whole crowd, and he spoke. And like I said, I don't know what it takes for him to come back from that and continue his career. And like I said, he had a good year the next year.
Going back, it was the 2000 Super Bowl, right? How wild was it? How surreal?
Yeah. I mean, now when I look back and I think about it, it's crazy. At the time, you're living through it and you're going through it. And again, you're ultra focused on doing your job and you don't really think about it. It's more now that I've been removed from the game so long that I think how crazy of a ride that was. And that whole year with the greatest show on turf. And it got to the point where I used to not warm up until we crossed the 50-yard line. And with these guys, it was as soon as we got the ball, start warming up, because it might be 1 play, 2 plays, but most likely you're going to go in and be kicking here shortly. So it was definitely a fun time.
So as you work with kids now, your story, but Kurt Warner stuffing grocery bags, what's that tell you about talent, judging, and what the experts think is right versus what is true?
Yeah, I mean, it tells me that you can never judge what's inside a person. You could see the physical attributes. You can put them through all the tests. But I've seen it time and time again, played with guys like London Fletcher out of John Carroll, Mike Zordich, that you just don't know what's inside. And that burning inside, that heart and that competitiveness is what I think lifts a lot of these guys. With that internal flame is what takes them to that next level. And that's what Kurt had. He wouldn't accept anything. I mean, you know the story. In fact, they're making a movie out of him on his life that's coming out in a year or two.
What do you get out of golf that is a good replacement substitute for football?
Definitely the competitiveness. You know, it's a chance to go out and compete. The camaraderie. You know, like the biggest thing I miss from leaving the game is not the game. You know, I mean, the pressure and all that builds up over time. By year 12, I mean, I was toast. I miss the guys, the locker room. When you talk about a family, you know, that was the family inside there. And the more you gelled in the locker room, the better your team ended up being on the field, because you played together, you cared about each other, you had each other's back. That's what I miss more than anything when I left the game.
I have the power to make you commissioner of football for a day. You get 3 changes to make in football. What will make a better NFL for you?
I mean, obviously, we'll start with the concussions. Back in the day, you didn't know. You just didn't know. So the changes they made, I think have kind of hurt the game. Like, I love the kickoffs. I love running down there. But we used to run down with a 3-man wedge, and just your goal was just to smash as hard as you can. Now we know it's just not healthy. As far as the coaches, I don't understand it. I played for some brilliant black coaches. I played for brilliant white coaches. Whether it's something with the owners and I don't know. And it's one of those where if I don't have the knowledge, I don't want to sit here and speculate and say something wrong. But I just know that the talent level's there. Okay. The other change I'd make on a selfish note would be the onside kick. Yeah. Like I said, they outlawed that kick I did. And even at that level, the percentage was only like 17 to 20%. And now, if a team gets down, it's almost impossible for them to come back. Yeah. So I'd like to see some kind of a rule instituted and that is enable a team to get an onside kick anymore. I think the percentage this year was like 4%.
On that note, as far as kicking and records, bumped into friend Paul McFadden, and he's a little disappointed in you, in that the record books have you listed as the last barefoot kicker in the NFL. What do you say to Mr. McFadden's concerns about the records?
I don't want to be known as the last barefoot kicker. Those guys were goofy. I agree 100%. I don't want to be that guy. And I was not actually barefoot. It was a matter of I was trying to find a Band-Aid because I was struggling and the spikes were kicking the ground. So I actually taped my foot as thick as a shoe. Yes, I guess I didn't have a shoe on, so you could say barefoot, but I actually had it as thick as a regular shoe till I could figure out what the heck I was doing, because it was that or getting cut. Have you seen Paul kick? Have you seen the video? It looks goofy. Why would you do that? Why would you go barefoot? And I joked about Paul, but he was probably one of the biggest inspirations. Sure. Again, having the support around me, he helped me.
All right, so let's get back to you bringing 6 drivers out to the golf course.
False. 3 at tops. 3 tops.
No way. I was there. You call me a liar? Can we agree on 4 maybe? Maybe 6 more.
All right, let's compromise on 4.
Have you grown to accept the fact that your golf drives will never be as long as your field goal kicks? Have you accepted that?
I'm starting to. And that goes to why you said why I haven't played the greatest golfer. Yeah. Throughout my whole career, everything's been focused on who's the best? What's the best? I want to see the best. And I'm having that struggle from playing in the open division and having a chance to be the best with playing in the 3 to 6 division. And I get it. It's still great competition, but it's like anything else. My whole life is what's the best? I want to try to be the best.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm not even close to that anymore. So I got to start making that transition to going out and still having fun competing at that level.
40-yard field goal to win a game, 40-foot putt to take $1,000 off one of the Porter boys. Which would you rather be doing? 40-foot putt to take money off Dennis Miller. But you can only make one of them.
I want the putt, because to be able to talk smack to Dennis Miller for the rest of the time, that'd be fantastic. Now, the only problem is I'm a horrible putter.
Have you ever, going back to my question about your drives and the lack of distance, Have you ever thought
Why are you picking on me?
just kicking the ball off the tee box might be more successful for you?
Oh, easily. I wish I could use my foot to putt a ball.
If you kicked a field goal now, and I'm sure you do with your camps and helping the little kids, what do you even want to try and kick, or is that like physically dangerous for you? Or what could you kick right now if you just had a morning to warm up?
From the time I retired, I did not touch a football for 5 years.
Wow.
I had a lot of back issues, which kind of forced the end of my career too. It was one of those where get out where I still got somewhat a good back,
Sure.
or trash it. So I didn't do anything for 5 years. Started feeling a little bit better. Started coaching some more. I could make probably a 40, 45, maybe a 50 on a good day. But
Did you really?
I got about 5 kicks in me, and then the leg's toast.
Do you and Paul, even at your ages now, square up on a field just to have fun and see?
We would love to, but we got 5 kicks. We used to have some fun during our camp. We hold a camp every year at YSU, and we used to go back and forth. But time has put a halt to that on both our ends. So
Yeah. Do you like coaching?
I do, especially when I see that desire and that internal flame of the guy who wants it and is willing to work their butt off. And that kind of still gets me fired up.
I mean, I think that's part of the whole cycle of life in sports is, someone reaches back to pull you up and you reach back at some point in your chance in life.
Paul and I talk about that all the time. He helped me. And then in turn, I help. We kind of talk, and we all have that same understanding. Hey, somebody helped us along. It's up to us to help somebody else along, and then keep it going from there. And I mean, there's been so many great guys I've got to meet.
Well, on that note, there's a lot of great guys in the 3 to 6 division of greatest golf. And I think you would enjoy yourself so much. You know who else would enjoy himself in 3 to 6 and is struggling just like you is Mr. Chad Hanish. And I know it's so both of you struggle to leave that nest of open and maybe you guys should both talk to Dick Marlowe, because and hopefully Dick's okay with me sharing this story. But the year he switched over to Seniors Open, I want to say he changed his mind 3 days in a row. Todd, I'm in Men's Open. Next day, put me in Senior Open. He was just tortured saying it. Next day, put him in Men's Open, and then he finally switched to Seniors Open.
We'll make that transition. It's more of I got to find some game. First of all, I have no short game. If you can, I'm to the point where I've seen you golf. You're horrible, but I will take lessons from you if you're willing to give them to me, because you're probably a better chipper.
Well, it's because they're hockey. It's that flipping pucks. So I think I can do okay. So I think that's all I got. I got the little soft hands, but I'd be glad to teach you for a price.
Well, I've had people, they've seen me putt and seen how bad I am, and they're like, "What do you played in the NFL? You kicked in front of the biggest crowds." I'm like, "You don't understand. I was half decent at kicking. Putting, I have no touch, no feel, and truthfully, being quiet is the worst thing ever. When you're playing in a stadium, you got people yelling. All you hear is a roar. When you're on a green, I hear the bird chirp. I hear the jingle and change in the pocket."
All right, here's my pledge.
Okay.
Thank you for your time tonight. If we can make this happen, if you play 3 to 6 this summer in Greatest, August 13, 14, 15, I will have a speaker with crowd noise. I will play this. I'll play this onside kick in the middle of all your putts, and I'll even make it like the 90th rule of Greatest Golfer, that when Jeff Wilkins putts, I can play crowd noise from the 2000 Super Bowl. Is that something we can get you to come back to Greatest?
I would love to. If I can muster up a game, I would love to do that.
Well, hey,
sure. Now, so you're basically telling me I'm not good enough to play the Open Division, right?
Go
ahead. You can say it.
You're a good man for Open, but the man and the hands don't always add up. And I'm just trying to help you that
I'm with you.
There's other places in Greatest for great men besides Open.
I have to accept it. I'm with you. I know. I think 1 year I was hurt. 1 year I had to take my daughter somewhere. And then 1 year my game was just horrible. So I'll practice up and I'll be there this year.
And 1 year you were holding a grudge because we gave you the thumbs down.
No, it was the right call. I was an idiot. How do you tee off? See, this is my Scott Norwood moment. I'm never going to live this down, am I?
I still love you. I'm glad you're here in town helping out the next generation, and I'm glad you consider Greatest every once in a while. And thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all you do with the Greatest Golfer. It's been fantastic success and great to see, and love seeing you every year, and all you do for the community too. So I appreciate it.